How you brothers doing?
Oh,
Fine, sir.
Oh man, it's good seeing you, brothers.
Good to be seen. Good to see you.
brother, we want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join the conversation with Brother Damon and myself. For the last it's almost been 3 months that
Yes,
we've
sir.
been having these conversations about where we went wrong in our marriage, where we as men are accountable for the direction our marriages and our relationships go. But we also have been talking about some of the things that we've learned over time and just the general hope and faith that we'll be married again. And so at first, Brother Sean, it was just me and Brother Damon speaking. I think we did about 3 or 4 Sundays.
Yes, sir.
And Brother Damon had the ideas like, brother, why don't we start inviting other people, other brothers to come on and have these discussions with us? And I said, brother, that's a good idea. And so I want to thank Brother Damon for inviting you on. And Brother Damon does a real good job at reaching out to brothers like yourself that he sees value in. And everybody that he's asked to come on, brother, it's just been a blessing after another as we discuss issues like this. So thank you.
Oh, praise be to Allah. Brother Damon's a great brother.
Thank you.
I appreciate the fact that, Allah has blessed our paths to cross. So
Yes, sir.
all praise are due to Allah. Yes, sir.
Well, brother, let me ask you this question. When it comes to relationships, the topic that we have up for discussion is self-improvement. And as men, do you think that it's important that we are always striving to improve ourselves and our relationships?
Brother, that's an excellent question. And I think it's vitally necessary as men that we work to improve ourselves personally long before we even think about getting in a relationship. And I say that, brother. So right now, I'm on my second marriage, right? So I've been married to my current wife for the last, I don't know, man, brother, so damn long. But this is actually my second marriage. And what's funny about that is, so my first marriage, though, what's interesting about you saying is my first marriage was to a sister who was still in high school at the time that we got married. I was 20, she was 17. And she ended up getting accepted to college. Now, what's funny about this whole dynamic is, and I know this is going to cut across the grain of what a lot of us have heard, and that is that while she was getting ready to go away to college, I'm talking about doing for self. I'm talking about, I don't need the white man's education, don't need the white man's job, and, everything that goes along with that. And the tragedy in that was that I was not prepared for her.
Wow.
And so, to be quite honest with you, her staying with me would have been doing herself a disservice because I just wasn't on her level. I was a couple years older than her, but I was not in a position to do anything beyond saying I'm married to her. And so I say all that to say that I think that self-improvement is probably the most important thing anybody can be engaged in, whether male or female. As men, I think it's extremely important. My take on manhood is that I'm not for, like, I've learned, now mind you, what I'm saying though is don't think that Brother Sean has always been like this. Don't think that I all of a sudden had an epiphany or I'm sorry, that all my life has been this way. No, I actually had an epiphany. I had an epiphany where I was looking at, damn, this sucks. This ain't fun. It ain't happy. And I began to recognize where my fault was in the matter. And so over time, what I've concluded is I give zero excuse for anything that is related to what I call manhood. So as a man, it is I'm blessed. My wife has given me 9 children. And I am blessed that, my wife has given me 9 children without complaint. And so as a man, it is on me to make sure that my children don't want, she doesn't want, and that I bring up my sons to have the same mindset, because I think that as men, what's funny about being a man is we get very little praise and credit for what we do, but yet what we do probably is the most essential piece of the life structure puzzle.
Yes, sir. Because
we provide the framework. And so if we're not adequately prepared, then we really can't really fulfill our role in that, and it's not that we don't deserve praise. It's not that we shouldn't, but I think it's kind of like my sons have a tendency to say that sometimes I'm unfair, right? Because there is a distinction between how I deal with them and how I deal with my daughters. And I just tell them, I said, you shouldn't have swam so fast, so you maybe should have let a female sperm cell beat you. I don't know what to tell you, son. This is the role we have. And I got to tell you, I love it. I'm grateful for it. I welcome it. But I think for me, it really, once I was able to get rid of blaming other people and focusing on what other people did or didn't do and focus on self, I got to tell you, like Allah has blessed me, brother, to where, shoot, brother, I got zero complaints about a damn thing. I really do. So self-improvement, I think, is essential, brother.
Brother, you said you and your wife there have 9 children.
Yes.
Wow. Now, brother, as you and your wife began having children, and what age were you when you started to have children, or when you became a father?
23.
Now, as you look at the age you were at 23 and to the man you were when you were 20, when you first got married, what had changed? What difference in yourself did you notice change as you went into your second relationship and you became a father?
To be honest with you, I did not like being single.
Amen.
Being single, and so what I did do is I started really looking at ways to build. I wasn't quite exactly sure what building would look like, but I started looking at different ways to build. So when I was living in Milwaukee at the time, I started selling fruit on the corner of this street called 35th and Burla. I started selling fruit, and I was selling fruit for $1 a bag. And it actually went pretty good. I was doing, I was making some pretty good money. And from there, I kind of felt, well, now it's time for me to start adding to the puzzle. And what's fortunate for me is, so my wife and I, we knew each other from high school. We lost communication. And when I went back to Milwaukee, we reconnected. And I felt that, okay, now that this fruit is going good, I'm making good money. Let me just start trying to put some other pieces of the puzzle in place. And that's kind of how it started. To be honest with you, what's funny about the whole change piece is I knew that I wanted something different. I knew I had to do something different, but it took one, getting married, because even though I was selling fruit, I was making money. I was dumb as hell with the money I was making. So I, the saying, "A fool and their money are soon parted." Yeah, I was that fool. And there are things that I didn't know, I didn't understand about business, about how I react with money, how I, it's kind of funny because, a lot of times we talk about having a lot of money, but what do we do once we have a lot of money? Right. And having money takes a real mature outlook, one that at the time I didn't have. So, I guess in short, I kind of knew I wanted some things to be different, wanted some things to be bigger and better. I just wasn't exactly sure what that would look like. And it kind of like me and my wife, we ended up coming back to California. We were in Milwaukee at the time. We decided to relocate back to California. And when I came back to California, I did not see going to school right away as an option for me. But it quickly became an option as I kind of began to exhaust other resources, and things like that. So in California is a place where if you don't have a specific skill set or training, it can be a bit of a challenge to live here. So that kind of led me into, seeking out school.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And when you got married the second time, brother, I can imagine if you're 20 years of age, it's pretty young in the sense where, ideally we'll get married after we're college age or after we get out of college. But it seemed at that age, it seemed like you had a marriage mindset as a young man.
Yeah.
And
no, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. Speak to that mindset, because I don't know too many young men who are my age coming out of high school who were thinking about marriage at that age. What was that? Where did that come from?
To be quite honest with you, I've always had married people around me in terms of like aunts and uncles. A good part of the majority of my life, my mother was married, but when I was younger, my mother was single. And what was interesting about her being single is that when you're a male in a single parent household, we don't always talk about it, but we do look for male affirmation, male guidance. And I did not really have that. And then when she got married, I got a little bit of it. But when I turned 18, when I came back out to California from Wisconsin, I ended up running into a couple of brothers from the mosque. And to be honest with you, my earlier years, even though my mother did eventually get married, in my earlier years, I did want to know what my father was like, and later on in life, we ended up connecting. But, so I've always kind of had a mindset of, man, woman, mother, father, right? But once I came in the nation, what was interesting was that model of life was reinforced, so and I didn't know anything about, courtship. I'm thinking boyfriend, girlfriend. I didn't know nothing about no courtship, so when I got introduced to that aspect of things, it all made sense. I knew being single, I know I'm not a monk. I know being single wasn't for me. So that wasn't about to happen. So and the sister that I met, I really did like, she was a great sister, beautiful sister, great spirit and everything. And so I knew that I wanted to be that kind of man. I wanted to be a family man. I wanted to, be able to raise children. And, one of the things that I've always said is that, I will never be without my children, right? Well, if I'm never going to be without my children, it means I got to have, a woman there, right? A wife. But, I think fatherhood was something maybe unspoken. It was unspoken, but I was looking forward to fatherhood. So it kind of, and that was young. I'm talking about like 18, 19, So yeah, I've always, well, not always, but yeah, as I kind of began to mature a little bit, I grew into wanting to have that piece in my life, fatherhood, husbandhood. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not an easy thing to see our mothers. I know for much of my adolescence, at least up till about 11, till about I was 18, I had this deep yearning to see my mother and father back together. And even though I understood when my parents got divorced, why my mother divorced my father, that reason never really did satisfy that yearning I had for my father. But it also, I never got a chance to really express to him some of the disappointments and things that I judged him about. Were there issues when you became a father that you saw in yourself that you began to connect to your father as you began to, or the absence of your father when you connected with him?
Next question. No. What's funny about you saying that is that, what's for me, a little bit of personal story. So my biological father, for the most part, he was incarcerated most of my life, and we eventually did connect. And he's a good brother. But what's funny about it is that he's a good brother, but the circumstances of life and being Black in America has, it just takes its toll, the brother that my mother married, he raised me. I give him all the credit in the world for that. He gave me food, clothing, and shelter. The basic things of life. Now, I say it like that because even though I had food, clothing, and shelter, there are a lot of things that I wish that I was actually taught and given instruction on. So when it comes to dealing with my own children, I'm going from scratch. What I use as my kind of my sounding board, though, is I begin to kind of reflect on the way that some situations and circumstances were handled with myself when I was younger, and I tried to use those as kind of like maybe a framework in dealing with my children now. You know, to give you an example of what I'm talking about, you know, I have sons, and I have 5 sons, and what's funny about them is I have 2 that for them, me saying it isn't good enough. And so they will act like they heard what I said. They will act like they're going to listen. And then they do 180 degrees from what I told them to do.
Wow.
And so what's been a challenge, though, is that when that happens, you know, it's very easy for me as a just who I am. It's easy for me to go from 0 to 60. And next thing you know, I'm cussing and I'm tripping. And what's hard for me about that is I don't like it. I hate it. But it's almost, and I don't like to use the term triggered or anything like that, but it's kind of like, and it's the easiest response for me to give when they don't listen and do what I need for them to do.
Wow.
And so it's been funny because I've been fighting to find different ways and different approaches. And here's what I kind of settled on. And it's still a work in progress. I don't know if you know how successful I'll be with it, but and that is scripting what it is that I need for them to do when I tell them to do something, to where it's almost like done like a detailed lesson plan, right?
Wow.
And you know, I'm a teacher by profession, so I'm recognizing that if the approach that I take to preparing for class, I could use that exact same approach from preparing for my children.
Wow.
You know, and so it's hard though, because I don't think about my children like I'm a teacher, like right in a professional setting, right? These are my children. You do what the heck I tell you to do because I told you to do it. But the problem is, and I guess I'll give you a perfect example. I told my son to clean up after the dog. And what he did is he came out, he saw that I compiled the dog waste into a pile. And mind you, I have a kennel, right? So I compiled the dog waste into a pile. And I said, hey, I need you to come out here and clean up the kennel and clean up after the dog. Well, what he did is he came out, he took the pile that I put together, threw it in the trash can, dropped the shovel, dropped the rake, left the garbage can there, and left the rest of the crap in the kennel. And I'm like, dude, I asked you to clean the kennel. He's like, I did. And what I had to catch myself, because I got heated. I had to catch myself. I was like, I did not tell him the kennel. I said, clean up after the dog in the kennel. So it's one of those things where, you know, we, as for myself, not really having a blueprint to go off of, I'm really trying to fine tune my approach to dealing with my own children, because dealing with other people's children is a little different.
Right.
And I found myself having a lot more patience with other people's children than my own.
Oh,
and that may seem strange, but I remember tutoring one of my sons on when he was reading, and I'm like, how is it that you don't get these words, you know? And I started to get agitated, and for me, unfortunately, when I got agitated, I just made the whole session horrible. He was miserable, I was miserable. It was bad. And I what I hate about that is because I felt like I was creating a situation where, okay, they're not going to want to work with me at all. They'll become resentful and they'll say, you know, man, dad tripping. I don't want to be bothered. And that's what I don't want. You know, I don't want to be one of those parents that when I step into a room, my children automatically stop because they think I'm going to tell them something's wrong, you know, or they automatically become defensive. So the strategies that I've been working on have been, they're kind of new for me. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but they're kind of new for me. But I can get into that a little later. But yeah, so hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, sir. Well, you know, brother, just for me and Brother Damon, you said almost exactly what we said toward the beginning of this was, there was just some things that we desired our fathers to just tell us outright. You know, one of those things for me is I wanted my father to teach me how to fight, because I would get bullied and I'd come home crying, and it seemed like he would literally do nothing. And then one day, as they're coming to come fight me again, he comes outside and he said something to them. He said, I'm tired of my son coming home crying because y'all are bullying him. And he said, I hope my son grows up to be bigger than all of you and whoop all your asses. You know, brother, that it did something to me. And from that day forward, I started whipping their asses.
Go ahead.
You know? And so when you're talking about the things that you had to, because, you know, what we want our fathers to say is not necessarily what Allah has planned for us. That's what is reminding me when you're speaking about how you've made these changes and these revisions and how you go about things. That's what pops out in my mind. It's like, wow, that's deep, brother. I mean, and to be a father of 9 children, predominantly, mostly boy children, raising young men, do they ever tell you how, what they see or what they see in you? And because we're talking about self-improvement, are there things that they have seen in you where they say, you know, Dad, you were right about this, or Dad, you were right about that?
You know, what's funny, my 27-year-old does. My 27-year-old does. My 20-year-old has started to point things out, but the younger ones, what's funny, and my youngest son is seeing things a little different than the 2 right above him, the 2 sons right above him. And I put it that way because the 2 sons above him, wow, I'm in a fight against the world right now. Because what they do is that's beautiful. No, hey brother, please, no. And what it is, I find myself having to justify to them why I say something or do something because I don't know, they don't think I know what I'm talking about.
Wow.
You know, and I guess I'll give you a personal example of where I'm at. So my sons are in school and I have this thing. I was like, you all have a cell phone. And I said, I don't give a damn what the teacher says. You don't use your cell phone in class for nothing. I don't care if the teacher says you can. You keep your cell phone put away while in class. And what happens, I get a progress report and I get a message, excessive use of cell phone in class. And I told my son, I said, dude, I told you no. Well, no, you know, sometimes we can use it for blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but that's not what this message says. I was like, so what I'm doing is I'm eliminating every excuse for you not to do well. But you want to challenge me on that. And so as a result, you're not going to do well in the course. And so one of them, you know, this same student, he has this same son, he has summer school. And I'm like, dude, you know, you got summer school because you didn't listen to what I told you. And I said, you know, I had to tell him, I said, man, it breaks my heart to disappoint you. When I have to take something from you, when I do something and I know you're upset and I know you're pissed off at me, that kills me. I hate it. I said, but good goddamn it, I refuse for you to turn out to be a nobody. I refuse for you to turn out to where you can't perform and function as a man. So good goddamn it, you just have to be pissed. I just have to suck up the pain myself. But hell, man, I'm raising men. And I said, sadly, you know, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. You can say, the hell with you, Dad, I'm not going to listen. And I said, you definitely have that right to. You just won't be doing that in this house. I don't care how old you are. We can start right now. And I don't like having to go there. But the thing that kills me about it is that I kind of showed them where the landmines are planted. I'm giving you a map to avoid these landmines. Now, you can either follow the roadmap and be okay, or you can say, you know, Dad, I'm going to go my own way. And what I hate about them going their own way, and I say this about experience, you know, experience isn't the best teacher, it's just the most painful.
Yes, sir.
You know, but my daughters, what's funny is my daughters, I don't have to say nothing. My daughters are on autopilot. You know, I don't know.
Wow.
They are. I mean, like they dot the I, they cross the T. You know, they do what they have to do in school. You know, there's also often a complaint that, you know, I have one daughter, you know, she just graduated, but I would let her stay up as late as she wanted. And I would hear complaints about that. I'm like, yeah, but she's like a 3.89 student. You know, all her teachers love her. She does what I need her to do. So what do I look like trying to put restrictions on her like that?
Mm.
She's handling her business. You know,
Mm.
she got accepted into 4 or 5 different colleges. And she said, rather than spend all that money, she just can go to a JUCO, a junior college, and do her first 2 years. I'm like, cool. So, you know, and it's, you know, it's often taken, you know, when you have more than one children, sometimes it's taken as, you know, playing favorites. And I'm like, but no, she's doing what I need for her to do. So I don't have to waste my time and energy following up behind her like I do you all, you know, speaking to my son. So, you know, I think that, I think that when it comes down to it, you know, my son's not really, my daughters do too. My oldest, I have a daughter, Angelica, who, it's kind of funny. She knows her father. She knows what's going to make me laugh. She knows what's going to piss me off. She knows, I mean, and it's kind of funny because I did not think that she paid attention, and she's 23 now. I did not think she paid attention to me like that growing up, but she paid attention to me. And so, you know, all that to say that, you know, it's a bit of a challenge because right now, the things that I try to do and the things that I try to teach, I'm in a fight against the world. And, you know, I mean, it's a fight I'm up for. It's just one of those things that I just hope, and granted, my sons have to learn, you know, hopefully they'll take the path of least resistance and listen, you know, rather than saying, wow, woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yes, sir. I know that's difficult. Boys, you know, I was in the store a few days ago with my son and my daughter, and my son normally helps me put things on the conveyor belt. And he was just staring at me like I wasn't saying nothing. And brother, I felt this urge to whip the crap out of my son in the store. and you know, all this stuff that I heard on TV. Oh, wait till I take your ass into the car. I'm gonna whip your ass when I get to. I was just saying all this shit in public. I was like, I can't say it out in public, but I was like, damn, look at me. I'm really getting angry about this. And he's 5 years old, 5 years of age. But it is very different with sons because they will test you. And I can only imagine, as I'm thinking of that, as you're talking about, brother, this is how I was when I was his age.
Yeah.
And so getting angry at him is like looking at myself. And brother, you know, would you say that are there, as you look at yourself, as you went through school in high school and came out of high school, which of your children, particularly among your sons, which of them is most like you?
You know, it's funny because I think the two that I just spoke of, I think together they're most like me. The difference is this: I was pretty much by myself, and they have each other. You know, he's a senior now, the other's going to be a sophomore, and so they at some point in time they've always been in school together, right? So right now they're in high school, and they actually hang out together at high school. You know, they have some of the same friends. I think both of them together are like me, and the reason why I say that is because for me, and Brother Damon will appreciate this. You know, for me, growing up in San Diego, like I was never gang affiliated, right? I had friends that were Crips, I had friends that were Bloods, but the way that I talk, you would think that I was, and it wasn't anything like I never did it like to get stuff started. You know, I'd be like, just like, you know, what's up, cuz, you know, I never said blood, but it wasn't because I didn't, you know, I had anything against Bloods. I would just, you know, what's up, cuz. And so, for the most part, I was being by myself. I had to kind of carry a certain kind of bravado.
Yeah.
You know, I like to fight. And so because of that, I had a little bit more of a risk-taking mindset. My sons, though, don't have that. So I would try to figure things out. Like I wasn't gonna let anything or anyone punk me, right? My sons kind of don't have that though. My sons are kind of like, they really don't want to have to deal with any kind of struggle or conflict like that. And on more than one occasion, me using the word cuz, and I'm sure Damon could appreciate this one. Me on more than one occasion, me using the word cuz, it led to some different kind of conversations, you know, because even though I'm not gang affiliated, if you don't know me, then you think that I am. And I had a lot of friends in high school that were Bloods and whatnot. So they knew me, but outside of my circle, it was like, and who's that crab over there? Right. So, you know, or E. Ricky, right? So, you know, that would kind of happen, but my sons don't have to deal with that. And they have, at least as far as I know, they haven't had to. They're kind of intrigued by, I guess, what I would call gang culture here in the area that I live in. But I tell them, I was like, you know, that's not your reality. So I don't want to hear you talking about it. I said, you all have never had a day of struggle in your life. You all have never had any kind of gang affiliation or anything like that in your life, you know? And I said, for me, you know, that's not my reality either, but I'm more aware of it than you all are. You know, I am. And so, you know, I think because of that for myself, I kind of maybe had it a little bit rougher in terms of, you know, just some things I had to, in situations I'd find myself in. You know, I remember going to this party, ended up going to a party over in Paradise Hills, Brother Damon. And it was, I got invited by this young lady. And as I'm walking up, now mind you, I'm all by myself. I had a car in high school. I'm a senior, I had a car. So I go to this party and nothing but blood standing outside, you know, and you know, it was just kind of funny because if I, you know, kind of like you read body language is one of those things. If I cower, then they're gonna mess with me all night.
Yeah.
If I walk past them like I don't know them and I'm not paying attention to them and they say what's up, I say what's up, you know. And if as long as I don't say nothing too out of pocket, for the most part, I'm gonna be left the hell alone, you know. And the only time it became an issue me being at that party was when they saw that the girl that threw the party invited me. Then everybody was like, you know, why in the hell are you over here, dude? You know, so, but that was another situation. That was something altogether different. But I think that for my sons, their reality has allowed them to avoid some things. I think together they're like me. I think individually they're probably a little bit different because they don't want to face adversity and difficulty. Me being by myself, I had to. You know, me being their father, I've kind of have helped them avoid adversity and difficulty. So I don't know, maybe on one hand I made them a little soft, and on the other hand, maybe, you know, I'm protecting them. I don't know, you know, only time will tell. But I'd have to say together they're like me. Individually, nah, they're different, you know.
Yes, sir. Well, brother, it's very obvious that you took from a very young age your desire to be a family man, to be a husband, to be a father, very, very serious. I want to thank you, brother, on behalf of Brother Damon and myself in Real to Real. We have about 1 minute or less, so at any point, this thing could just shut off.
Okay.
So I want to say thank you very much for joining with us and being so authentic and open about your experience as a child, some of the issues you spoke about your yearning for your father, and also some of the good things that when your mother remarried, some of the things that your what we call your stepfather provided for you. Because I really think it's very valuable that men hear about